that I love. So not only was he like petty and not throwing his own players under the bench, but just doing what he can to get into the mind of his opposite number in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but also his backwards football completely fell apart on the pitch, and it was a combination of late stage Jose and Spurs being Spurs, and it's just a thing that I love where Jose Mourinho is just being a petty bitch, but also his football that I don't enjoy watching fails. It's just
you just don't appreciate true art. That's your problem.
No, I was enjoying the art of destruction there. Like, he is the disaster artist.
Yeah. It is quite amazing, and I caught the first half of that game, and then went back and saw the highlights for the rest of the game, and I was just amazed when I saw that it was a 3-1 United victory. As much as I can't cheer for United, it does help Liverpool's top 4 chances, seeing Spurs drop points.
But I think we got to touch very quickly on the big one, which was City versus Leeds. Should we not?
I mean, yeah, fair enough. Like, I think it's an interesting thing that I saw, and I know that you saw the same, Ben, where people were saying, oh, like City lost 2-1 to Leeds when Leeds were down to 10 men. I think Leeds went down to 10 men at exactly the right moment. It was like a fairly soft red card at the very death of stoppage time in the first half.
After they had just gone up 1, so they've secured like an early lead. And then they but they got themselves a red card.
Yeah, and that's certainly not ideal, and you would prefer to play at full strength by all means. But if I'm Leeds, I think the best time to get a red card is just before I'm going into the locker room and getting a pep talk and getting a reanalysis of game tactics. From my manager, that's the ideal moment.
That's a pretty easy ask. I mean, best time is at the end of the game when it's not going to affect as much. But yeah, you're right. Yes. And it's pretty easy. I shouldn't say pretty easy, but you have a lot more time to explain to your players how you're going to change the game. But remember, these are professionals. They talk about these things. They have team meetings, and these team meetings aren't just like, hey, this is how we attack. This is this. It'll be things like, all right, guys, we get a red card in the 20th minute. Here's how we're going to change our formation against this type of team or this type of team. And they have contingencies. So even if it does happen, it is better to have that halftime to discuss it. But I don't want to say if it happened at the 46th minute, that it would have been crazy different. I
think it would have been, though. I think you're right. Absolutely. Well, they're professionals, and they have means of going about things, and they know okay, here is the game plan when. But you still have to communicate that across 10 players. You still have to get everybody on board and understanding okay, here's the game plan going forward, and okay, I'm attacking and you're attacking. It depends on which player has gotten the red, and
it doesn't take too long to get that across. Once you tell one player,
it doesn't take very long for City to score 2 goals.
One stoppage. You tell the closest player there, all right, here's who's going there.
But I think having 15 minutes in a dressing room
I'm not going to
is
argue
beneficial.
That does give you some extra time, but I don't think it's okay, the Leeds would have lost the game if it was in there.
Speaking of pep talks, though,
hey,
is there kind of a sense that Pep was overthinking that, the 2-foot putt that was, I'm playing against a newly promoted team that is down to 10 men, maybe, and overthought that to the point where he then concedes a goal late and loses?
I didn't see the game, so I'll let you guys.
I mean, I was just more looking at the chances because I watched the second half, and Raheem Sterling missed just a howler. It was bad, and the possession was as you'd expect, and the shots on target were as you'd expect, and they just couldn't finish.
It's interesting to me because my read on it was they went out into that second half to say, okay, let's go and win this game, which okay, that's kind of what you want them to say coming out.
The typical thought. Yeah.
But more from the perspective of we're going to force it. They're down to 10 men. We're going to do this rah rah rah, rather than going out and saying let's go and play our game and see what happens, because they didn't need to win this match. And I think there's a certain mentality of let's win the title and let's wrap it up as soon as possible.
Is this their Watford lost? Ours last year?
I think so. Actually?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Although ours was... maybe about the same time.
It was roughly the same time.
I think it was 29th game or something, but it was probably close.
Yeah. So, it just struck me as, they got a little bit too let's wrap, which is an admirable trait. Let's wrap up the title. Let's win it. Let's win every game we can and all that sort of stuff. I think they were just a little bit too eager to go out there and do the business rather than just go about their work, right? And I think they just tried to force it and it bit them in the ass.
Very possible. You know what else bit everybody in the ass this weekend? Good old video assistant refereeing.
Now, to lead right into that, can I quickly share my favorite moment about the VAR saga involving Man United and Spurs?
Please do.
Go right. Which part of it?
So, we'll get to it, but Son's, the foul on Son by McTominay.
Yeah.
So, after the game, there was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was having some words. There was a dust-up on the touchline between Jose and Ole.
Shocker.
And Jose drops probably one of my favorite interview quotes of all time, which is, Sonny is very lucky his father is a better man than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Because Ole said, if my son went down like that and had his friends all around him, he wouldn't eat.
Yeah. Methinks the Jose doth protest too much on that one, but I just love it. And this is why I love Jose Mourinho. This is why I hope he stays as a manager for as long as he possibly can. I
said, this was the type of peak Jose that I love. Yeah. It's just I'm gonna throw my opposite number under a bus. I'm not gonna throw my players under a bus, but I'm gonna throw the opposite number under a bus.
But we can agree that was, obviously none of us here are United fans, but that was painful to watch.
I watched that live, and I remember seeing it happen, watching Son go down. I was like, geez, whatever, man. And they play, and it was a very nice goal. Another topic, Edison Cavani, man. I wish we had picked
that. Was a transfer.
Jesus,
that was a good move, yeah.
I'm so glad he's not young.
And he goes down, they score, and then they're checking it, and I was like, what? The offside? Okay, it's not offside. It was a great goal. And then the slow-mo, the review, it looks like he's barely even touched him in the face, and Son goes down like he's been shot in the face. And what bugs me the most is after they call it back, or shouldn't say after they call it back, as they're calling it back and as the referee's watching it, you see Son basically trying to grab McTominay. So he's trying to foul him. McTominay tries to brush him off, and while doing so,
makes contact with his,
barely makes contact with
his face. Yeah. And Son goes down, and it gets called back. So I was just like, in the flow of play, nobody thought that was a foul. When you super slow-mo it, you're like, okay, technically contact to the face, so I guess that's a foul, which I guess should have been a red card as well if you're going by the book. It just made it look so much worse, and it was ridiculous. And I love Son. I should say I did love him. I think that was douchey as hell's of him. And then he goes ahead and scores the next goal, which is,
that was,
miraculously I didn't follow it when that happened. But not just that one, because it happened at Wolves and it happened at Liverpool too. The damn VAR offside line being drawn to the sleeve, to what part of the sleeve, to somebody's toe, to wherever it is. And guys, I've been a staunch defender of VAR, saying you know what, offsides are offsides, but it's getting too ridiculous now. I'm pretty much on the fence, off the fence, saying just get rid of it. Let's go back.
I don't think you can necessarily get rid of it, but I think that it needs significant change, and it needs to start with who we're having employed as referees in England, straight up, because you've got middle-aged men who don't know how to use this tool, using it incorrectly, and not having any actual consequences for using it incorrectly.
Hold on a second.
The referees in England are trash, and they have been for years.
That's, John, as much as you hate them, and as much as a lot of people hate them, they're still the most trained, most qualified referees out there.
I would say that the referees in the rest of continental Europe, and you can see this based on how VAR is implemented elsewhere in continental Europe.
Now, if you want to blame VAR rules and how they use it, that's fine. But when you start throwing the referees all under the bus, I think it's way too blanket of a statement to do that.
I'm just saying that the referees in England versus the referees on the continent of Europe itself, in the other major leagues, it's a case of they're all high profile leagues and they're all high profile referees. The problem is consistently with the referees in England, and it's a problem consistently. You can say that they're highly trained and whatever. The problem is that there is no consequences for them constantly messing things up. So, if you'll allow me, the Jota offside, which led to Bobby Firmino losing his goal. So we're all familiar with the yellow line, right? That's the offside line. It's the line of the last attack, or the last defender, rather. It is the offside line when we're looking at the freeze frame. You also have two other lines which determine whether or not the play is offside. It used to be another line to sort of keep things in line of like where things were, but it got more complicated. The rule around offside is more complicated based on like what's the body part and all that sort of stuff. So what they do is they draw a horizontal line and a vertical line. The horizontal line is determine the position of the body part that's actually said to be offside, the potential goal scoring part of the body. Now, JP, you were saying that it was a shirt sleeve in this case. It was Jota's head was the piece, part of the body that was deemed to be offside in this case. The vertical line goes from the horizontal line to the body part. If the point where those two points meet is beyond the yellow line, it's offside. Makes sense, right? In this case, what actually happened, rather than drawing the horizontal line in line with Jota's head, the line was actually drawn at his feet, which falsely made his head look like it was offside. So you just have a situation where they're picking the wrong body part and they're not noticing the spatial awareness of like where Jota's body is and what's the actual piece of his body to actually call him whether or not he's offside. Because you can look at it plain as day at the speed of play, and that's why it wasn't called off on the pitch. And also if you look at it just from like in a like slow motion, but if you're looking at that that freeze frame and you're looking at the wrong line, it looks offside. There are further problems as far as I'm concerned, because from the freeze frame that you're seeing, you can't see if the ball's actually leaving Trent's foot because Bobby's in front of Trent in that situation. I just don't understand how, like, from the broadcast position, we can see more different views of the actual play and determine whether or not a ball was offside better than they can at Stockley Park in terms of their offside decisions. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. So the way that I would fix this is no more freeze frame, no more slow-mo. Just play it as many times as you need to in order to make sure that you've made the right decision at game speed. Play it as many times as you want from as many different angles as you want and make a decision from game speed.
Funny enough, I agree with your conclusion, but I don't agree with how you got there, which is fine. Because I kind of like the result is watch it at game speed, and that goes for all plays. For the Sun, slap in the face, for offsides. If you can't tell it at game speed, even with the replays, then you know what? Too close to call in my books at that point.
Well, you can say that VAR is a new thing in football. It absolutely is. But you know what isn't? Video replays in sports. Other sports are able to get this right. And, like, yes, there are individual things about football that are different. But, like, it's not like it's a new technology. It's a camera and the human eye.
And the way they drew the lines and everything, I never read anything on that or saw that was drawn off the head or wrong spot off of them. I just saw the way how close it was, and it's just getting ridiculous because I think those fine margins, I just don't like how you're measuring you're comparing somebody's head, in this case, like I said, to somebody's knee or to their toe. My solution would be just have it right at the boots, right at the cleats. That's if I'm leaning past, fine. As long as my toe is in line with their toe or their last part of their body, then I'm okay with that. I just find it's getting way too specific on it. And if they lined it up to the wrong spot and they're using it the wrong way, then that's the procedure. That's the VAR procedure. I'm still not going to go back to what you said about the referees being the problem. I don't think it's them being poor, making bad decisions. I think it's using VAR wrong or being instructed on how to use it wrong. So
I'd say that the decision making in the Premier League being bad has gone back beyond VAR, and I think as fans we're way too biased, and I way too many people. Listen, man, when we're watching down at Dear Nelly's and I'm hearing people yell, "Oh my God, that's a red card! Oh, that's a foul! Oh my God, how did they call that at Liverpool?" I feel like I'm one of the few people there that tries to be objective and be like, "Listen, guys,
If that was the other way around, you would have called it.
I will admit that I'm one of those people who grumbles, and then like I look at the replay and go, oh, okay, maybe they got that right. But like I would say that like by and large, you have less belief in VAR